Hey, this is Jasmine from Rough Work Digital, where we do modern marketing for businesses that get their hands dirty. And today we're going to be talking about rebuilding after the Los Angeles fires that, to this recording date, are actually still going on. But we're going to be talking about what businesses can do and what opportunities are available. Just a good overview in the LinkedIn article from us. So we have Adam and Ivy, our podcast hosts. They're going to be discussing that. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and all that fun stuff. And here we go.
This LA firestorm, it's been just devastating. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
But, even with the tragedy, there's like all these rebuilding efforts that are about to start.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be surprising, but, people might not realize which businesses are really going to benefit from all this.
Yeah.
It's not just construction and the cleanup crews,
Right.
Like this firestorm, it's going to have ripple effects across all kinds of industries you might not even think of.
Yeah, it is really fascinating to see how events like this change things for businesses.
Right.
I mean, the immediate needs, rebuilding homes and clearing debris, that's all obvious. But then there's this whole network of support services that people need after something like this, and that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, and we're looking at some insights from Rough Work Digital today.
Okay.
And their analysis really breaks down all the opportunities that are going to come out of this firestorm. And the big takeaway,
What's that?
government contracts, they're going to be huge in this whole recovery.
Oh, absolutely. Agencies like FEMA, the Forest Service, they're going to be pouring billions of dollars into this.
Wow.
We're talking contracts worth hundreds of millions, even billions for everything. Debris removal to rebuilding infrastructure.
So it's not just like a quick buck, right?
No.
These contracts last for years.
A lot of these contracts will be for multiple years, yeah.
So it's a steady income for the businesses that get them.
Yeah, it's a good long-term strategy if you know how to work the system.
Okay. So who are we thinking is going to benefit the most? Like, who are the obvious winners here?
Well, restoration and cleanup crews are a no-brainer. I mean, fire damage restoration, hazardous waste removal,
Yeah.
even landscaping companies are all going to be in high demand. I mean, they're essential, right?
Yeah.
Needed immediately after a disaster like this.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense. What about rebuilding?
Well, construction is going to be huge, obviously. Rebuilding homes, businesses, infrastructure, it's a huge undertaking. Construction firms, the suppliers of building materials, home improvement stores like your Home Depots and Lowe's,
Yeah.
they're going to be busy for years. But it goes beyond just the buildings themselves.
What do you mean?
Think of all the other services people will need. Insurance adjusters, they'll be flooded with claims. Financial advisors, they're going to be helping people with rebuilding loans. And people need places to live while they rebuild. So temporary housing providers will be essential. It's a whole ecosystem of businesses that help get a community back on its feet.
It's easy to forget about all that stuff when you're just thinking about like the physical rebuilding.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's a whole network of support that's just as important.
And don't forget about the less tangible needs. Mental health services, they're vital after something like this. And things like air quality management and companies that sell safety equipment, masks, gloves, those will see a spike in demand too.
It's amazing like how far-reaching the impact of something like this is.
Yeah, it shows how connected we are and all the different ways businesses can help.
So let's say someone listening is thinking, okay, I see the opportunity, but how do I actually get a piece of it? How do they get in on these government contracts? What would you tell them?
Well, first thing is to be prepared. And that starts before anything even happens. You need to register with sam.gov, get your cage code, and make sure your website is up to date and shows what you can do. It's all about being ready to respond when something like this happens.
Okay. And one of the sources we looked at also mentioned this thing called Sourcewell.
Right.
What is that?
So Sourcewell is, it's like a cooperative purchasing organization.
Okay.
And it can make things easier and potentially save businesses time and money. They have access to pre-bid contracts, which is a huge advantage when you're competing for government work. It's like a shortcut.
So it cuts through some of the red tape.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're registered, you know about Sourcewell. What's next?
Well, don't just apply for everything you see.
Okay.
You got to be strategic. Target agencies like FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers, your local emergency management agencies, they'll be handling most of the recovery efforts, so that's where most of the opportunities will be.
Right, focus your efforts. Now, what about smaller businesses or even just individuals who can't handle a massive government contract on their own?
Well, subcontracting is a great option. Partnering with a larger company, one that's already winning bids, is a good way to get your foot in the door and get experience.
Hmm.
It's a win-win. The larger company gets the specific skills they need, and the smaller business gets to be part of the recovery effort.
So there's a way for everyone to get involved.
Absolutely. But you need to stand out. Specialize in something in high demand, use your local knowledge, and build relationships with the key players in the industry. Networking and showing your expertise, those are important.
Okay, so what about the proposal process? What advice do you have for someone putting together a bid?
The proposal is everything. It's how you get the contract. You need to do your research, show how your experience fits the needs of the project, and you have to follow all the federal regulations. There's this document called 2 CFR 200, and it basically lays out all the rules.
So 2 CFR 200, that's like the rule book.
Yeah, you got to read the fine print. If you don't follow those regulations, they could disqualify you, or worse, you could get in legal trouble.
Yikes. So big opportunity, but a lot to keep track of.
There is, but the rewards are big too, both financially and in terms of helping the community rebuild. It's about making a difference while also building a successful business.
Okay, so let's switch gears for a second. Let's say you win the contract, you're ready to start work, but then your own business gets hit by the next disaster.
Oh, wow.
How do you make sure you can keep operating?
That's so important, and it's why you need a good business continuity plan. Think about things like backing up your data offsite or using cloud storage, and make sure your employees are trained and can adapt in a crisis. What if your office is damaged, your equipment is gone, or your key people are unavailable? You need to be able to keep going even when things get tough.
So getting the contract is only half the battle. You need to be able to do the work even when there are problems.
Exactly. Operational resilience is crucial for any business, but especially in a field as unpredictable as disaster recovery.
Now, Roughwork Digital talks about some specific marketing tools that they think government contractors should be focusing on. What are those?
They talk about 6 key assets: the small business profile, the capability statement, the website, the LinkedIn personal profile, the LinkedIn company profile, and the capability briefing deck. Each of these plays a different role in getting those government contracts and showing what you're good at.
Let's break those down a bit, starting with the small business profile. What's the main thing to keep in mind there?
Think of it like your company's resume.
Oh.
It's made up of your SAM.gov registration and your dynamic small business search profile, or DSBS. And it's the first thing those market researchers will look at. So make sure it uses a lot of keywords, accurately shows what you can do, and highlights any experience you have, especially in disaster recovery.
So first impressions are important. What about the capability statement? What makes a good one?
It needs to be short and grab people's attention, like your elevator pitch.
Okay.
You need to be able to explain what you do best in 6 seconds or less, and it should look good and be easy to read, using what they call a Z format to guide the reader's eye.
Z format, what's that?
Imagine the letter Z. You put your most important info, like what you do best, at the top left. Then the reader's eye naturally moves across to the top right, then diagonally down to the bottom left, and then across to the bottom right. It's all about leading the reader through the information in a way that emphasizes the most important points.
Oh, okay. And then the website.
Yeah.
What's its role?
The website's mainly about validation. It's where potential clients can check that your company's legit and find out more about your services. Make sure it looks professional, it's easy to use, and put your UEI and cage codes on every page. And make sure those codes link back to your DSBS profile and SAM.gov registration. Make it as easy as possible for those researchers to find you.
So the website is backing up what you said in your profile and capability statement.
Exactly. It's all about building trust.
All right. And LinkedIn. Seems like everyone uses that now, but especially for government contractors.
Yeah, LinkedIn is all about building those connections and showing off what you know. Your personal profile should have your capability statement in several sections, use relevant keywords in your headline, and have a banner image that shows off your services.
So your personal LinkedIn profile is like an extension of your capability statement, but more social and engaging.
That's right. And don't forget about your company profile on LinkedIn, too. It's another way to prove you're the real deal, and you can share content about your industry there.
All right, so we've got the small business profile, capability statement, the website, and LinkedIn. What's the last one?
The capability briefing deck. Think of it like a PowerPoint, but visual and engaging, to start a conversation with potential clients.
Not a long lecture.
Nope. A good capability briefing deck is short and just focuses on getting the conversation going. Engage the buyer, figure out their needs, and leave them wanting more.
It's like a teaser that makes them want to find out more about what you offer.
Exactly. It's about making a strong first impression and showing you're a reliable partner.
Well, we've covered a lot. From what happens right after the fire to the longer-term recovery, it's obvious that the LA firestorm is going to create a ton of opportunities for businesses of all sizes.
It's definitely a tragedy, but it's also a chance for businesses to step up and be a big part of helping the community rebuild.
And not just rebuild, but build back better, stronger, more resilient.
That's the goal. Disasters, as bad as they are, can be a chance for innovation and positive change. For businesses, this means recognizing that people need new solutions and adapting to those needs. You know, it's interesting when you think about it how these disasters, as awful as they are,
Right.
they can actually lead to some innovation.
Yeah.
Like when the old ways just don't work anymore, people are forced to come up with new solutions.
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's like the firestorm creates this like void. And you know what they say? Nature abhors a vacuum.
Right.
So all these new ideas and technologies and approaches, they rush in to fill that gap.
Exactly. And you see that happening now with the LA firestorm. Like companies are developing new building materials that are more resistant to fire.
Wow.
Architects are designing homes that are better suited for areas prone to wildfires.
Oh, yeah.
And you have these tech companies creating early warning systems so people can evacuate sooner.
So it's not just about rebuilding what was there before. It's about rebuilding smarter
Right.
and making the whole community more resilient in the future.
That's exactly it. And this kind of thinking, it can apply to everything, not just the buildings.
Right.
Think about the infrastructure, communication systems, transportation networks, more sustainable energy grids.
Yeah.
All these areas where innovation can create a stronger and more adaptable community.
That's a great point. And it's not just the big players, the government agencies and huge corporations. This is a chance for small businesses, entrepreneurs, even just people with specific skills.
Absolutely. The need for creative solutions and specific expertise, it's going to be huge in the next few years. So if
Right.
you're listening and thinking, I want to help, but where do I fit in? Well, look at the skills you already have. See if you can use them in a new way. Maybe you're a graphic designer who can help businesses with their marketing.
Right.
Or you're a social media expert who can help community organizations spread the word about relief efforts. There are so many ways to contribute.
So think outside the box and see how your skills can meet the needs of the community.
That's it. And remember, this recovery is going to take years, maybe even decades.
Wow.
So there's going to be this ongoing need for new solutions and skilled professionals.
Okay.
This isn't just a quick gig. It's a chance to be part of something that's going to transform things for the long haul.
We've talked a lot about the business side of all this, the contracts, the opportunities, the competition.
Yeah,
But let's not forget about the people.
right.
There are people who have lost everything, their homes, their belongings, their sense of security.
It's true.
So how can businesses be sensitive to that and still try to be successful?
That's a really important question. It's about empathy and compassion in this whole process. Businesses need to remember the trauma people have experienced and really want to help. Maybe that means offering flexible payments, emotional support,
Right.
or even just being patient and understanding as people try to rebuild their lives.
So it's about finding that balance.
Being a successful business, but also being compassionate and part of the community.
Exactly. And I think consumers are realizing that more and more. People want to support businesses that are doing good, businesses that are trying to make a positive impact.
Yeah, it's like this disaster is making us rethink the role of businesses in society. It's not just about offering a product or service, it's about being part of the solution and making a real difference.
I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be amazing if businesses were seen as partners working towards a better future, not just about profits?
Yeah?
Disasters, even though they're terrible, they can make us face these big questions and push us towards a better way of doing things.
So we've talked about what's needed now, the opportunities down the road, the ethical side of things.
Yeah.
Well, what about the community itself? How can businesses support those community-led initiatives? Those are so important after something like this.
You're right. That often gets overlooked.
Yeah. It's not just about putting buildings back up. It's about rebuilding lives, that sense of community, and giving emotional support to those who've been affected. Businesses can have a huge impact here, and it doesn't always have to be about money.
So what are some ways businesses can get involved in those community efforts?
Well, they can donate stuff, goods and services, offer their space for community organizations to meet,
Yeah.
or even set up volunteer programs for their employees. Even small things can make a big difference, like offering discounts to first responders and people who've been displaced,
Right.
or teaming up with local restaurants to feed volunteers. It's about showing you care and supporting those who are working hard to rebuild.
And doing that kind of stuff doesn't just help the community, it can be good for the businesses too, right?
For sure. When businesses help out, people see that. It improves their reputation, and customers are more loyal. People remember who helped them when they needed it, and they're more likely to support those businesses later on.
So it's a win-win.
Exactly. Businesses make a positive impact, and they build stronger connections with the community.
So it's not just charity, it's a two-way street where businesses and the community are there for each other.
That's the idea. And that kind of relationship is really important for building a stronger community in the long run.
This has been really insightful. The LA firestorm, it's a tragedy, there's no doubt, but it's also a chance for change and for businesses to be a part of rebuilding and creating a better future for everyone. What's your final takeaway for the listener?
I think the key is to remember that this is a complicated process, disaster recovery. There are challenges and opportunities, ethical questions, and amazing stories of resilience.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we're all in this together, the government, businesses, individuals, and we all have a role to play in creating a more resilient and sustainable future.
So we talked about the immediate impact, the long-term opportunities, and the ethical side of things. But what does it all mean for someone listening who's thinking, okay, this is all interesting, but how can I actually get involved and make a difference?
It comes down to realizing that with every crisis, as bad as it is, new needs come up. And those needs create opportunities for people and businesses to step in and help.
So it's not just about the big companies getting those government contracts.
Right, exactly.
This is also a chance for smaller businesses, entrepreneurs, even just individuals with certain skills to find a way to contribute.
Absolutely. Remember the ripple effect we talked about?
Yeah.
The need for services goes way beyond just the construction and cleanup. There's going to be a huge demand for all sorts of things: mental health counseling, financial advice,
Right.
marketing and design services, as businesses try to rebuild and get back on their feet.
It's like the firestorm completely changes the game.
Yeah,
It creates a whole new set of needs and opportunities.
it's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the businesses that can adapt quickly, that can anticipate what's needed and come up with new solutions, they're going to be the ones that succeed.
So for someone listening who's maybe feeling a little lost with all this, what's the one piece of advice you would give them?
Don't be afraid to think differently. Look at what you're good at, what you're passionate about, who you know, and ask yourself, how can I use this to help the community rebuild? You might be surprised at what comes up when you start thinking creatively and making connections.
It's about seeing this crisis not just as a tragedy, but as a chance for innovation, a chance to build something new and better.
That's it. The LA firestorm, it really shows us that the world is always changing. And the people who can adapt and change with it, they're the ones who are going to shape the future.
That's a great point. Well, I think we've had an incredibly insightful conversation here.
I agree.
It's clear that the LA firestorm, it's a tragedy, but it's also a chance for businesses to step up and be a part of rebuilding and creating a better future.
Definitely.
Any final words for our listeners?
It's been a pleasure talking with you. I think what we've discussed today highlights how events like this affect not just the physical world, but also businesses and how communities come together.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. And for our listeners, we hope this conversation has helped you understand a little better the complexity of disaster recovery,
Yeah.
the opportunities that can come out of these tough situations, and how important it is for communities to be resilient.
Remember, even when things are really bad, there's always hope. And when we work together, we can create a stronger, more sustainable future for Los Angeles and beyond.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rough Work Digital Podcast. If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more marketing insights tailored for businesses like yours. And hey, if you're looking for even more value, check out the LinkedIn articles where we break down these episodes into bite-sized tips you can use right away. Until next time, keep hustling and keep building.